Let's then flip back over here to our domain controller because this is the location where, again, we have that copy of the group policy management console. So let me pop over here and launch the GPMC so I can show you the steps you might go through towards bringing this otherwise uncontrolled environment under control. I'm going to manipulate here the default domain policies so that we can take a look at just some of the security settings associated here with domain. And if I maximize things here and I pop back down here into policies and then Windows settings and then security settings, the public key policies right here, this is the location where we can do some centralized magic with ensuring that the proper certificates get located in the proper location. And one of the very first settings that we should take a look at actually happens here under the properties of EFS itself, which is right here. If I right-click here and choose to view properties of EFS, you can see that the default configuration for even allowing file encryption with EFS is, as I said, don't care or not defined. It's here where you can choose to specifically turn it on, to bring it under control, to allow ECC, elliptic curve cryptography, or to set some of the options down here for how you want everything to behave. If you do also turn it on, back over here under certificates, it's here where you can define the certificate template to be used for any of these automatic certificate requests that get created. Now, out of the box, with a certification authority already built and in your environment, with an enterprise root CA online and ready to listen for and then respond to certificate enrollment requests, the basic EFS certificate is automatically available to any requesting computer. You see that here is the EFS template to be used. And in fact, if I bring up the MMC console here, I can just show you, if I take a look at certificates, exactly what this were to look like if a person were to request a certificate using the console here, the certificates console here. Here under certificates, if I choose certificates for my user account and then hit OK, I can come down here under the personal item and actually go about enrolling myself for a specific certificate. Here under all tasks, let me choose to request a new certificate. If I choose next and then use the Active Directory enrollment policy, which is again the default policy, nothing's been configured or changed here, it's here where under next I can choose again to enroll for this basic EFS certificate. This certificate has all of the basic configurations for actually doing the encryption of data. And it's a basic EFS certificate, or one very much like it, that Jason actually created a second ago when he went about enrolling for that self-signed certificate that he used to encrypt his document. Had Jason instead chosen to enroll for a certificate from an online certification authority, this is ultimately the certificate that he would have requested and received, this basic EFS certificate. So there's not much other than the installation of ADCS and a certification authority that you would need to do to at least get this far. Now, I've already installed ADCS onto this computer DC. I've already installed the certificate authority role service as well onto this machine and configured this CA as an online enterprise root CA. It is a relatively basic installation or simple installation that I actually talk about in an upcoming series for the 70-412 exam. Now, I know it's probably not a great idea for me to kind of pitch you towards the next exam you need to take, but there's some of the topics that we'll be talking about here in this module and for this objective that perhaps might be a little easier if you sort of stop here and perhaps accelerate or fast forward yourself to one of the functional groups over in the 70-412 exam on identity and access solutions. Down here you can see two different modules, one on installing and configuring AD certificate services and another there on managing certificates. And I'm pitching you there because I want to assume that you either have previous certificate experience or you've watched both of these two modules because they will give you the detailed explanation of everything that's required in order for us to get to and through the next series of steps. So again, you might just pause things here. You might flip over to these couple of modules, just take a listen to them because they provide an excellent introduction to the installation of that Active Directory certificate authority and also the use and customization of certificate templates there in its console. Now, if I were here to enroll for this basic EFS certificate using the Active Directory enrollment policy, there, I've gone ahead and enrolled for it there. And you'll see now that under my personal store, here in the certificates subfolder, that in fact there is a certificate here for the Greg Shields user, my actual account here, that is been configured here for the encrypting file system intended purpose. So all this says is that I can now actually go about encrypting files and later decrypting them using this certificate. As long as I possess the certificate at the correct location here under current user, I can go through all the steps that are necessary to encrypt and decrypt files without resorting to a self-signed certificate that is in no way managed. Just like the example earlier with Jason logged into the machine, I could also come back here and right-click on this certificate, choose all tasks, go here to export, and actually export this certificate, including its private key, that all-important piece that's necessary for the encryption and decryption of data. I could export this all out into some location so that I could back up this certificate and then later restore it should I for some reason lose the original copy.